Welcome back to part 2 of this episode with our guest, Brian McCarthy.
That no matter what I did, no matter what I said, no matter what price I came out with, they
Mm-hmm.
were just going to be combative about it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Generally, that allowed me to stick my heels in the sand a little bit more. But on the other side, if I
Mm-hmm.
had a customer that's like, hey, look, I trust you. I know you're going to give me a good deal. And they didn't badger me. They didn't work me over. They didn't try to nickel and dime me. Generally, those people got above and beyond what they felt like they were going to get
Mm-hmm.
because they respected my position, and it was a trust that I didn't want to break. I didn't
Right.
want that customer to leave the dealership to find out that he could have bought it for $5,000 or $10,000 less. That was my fear. It's like, you entrusted me enough to say, I trust you, you're going to do the right thing. Inherently, we as humans don't want to break that trust, because immediately you see that as a reciprocal relationship. This customer, if I take care of them, will continue buying more trucks from me. And it didn't matter to me if the guy had one truck in his fleet or 5,000. It didn't
Yeah.
matter. If he
Yeah.
trusted me, he was going to get a solid deal. Now, I get that a lot of people, uh, small business owners, and even retail people as well, when they come in guns blazing because that's how they feel like that they're going to get one over on the dealership because they've had bad experiences or they've heard horror stories. And the way that they combat that is they're going to control the situation. Well, okay, to a degree, but at the end of the day, the dealership controls the situation. They don't have to sell you a vehicle. They don't have to, fall in line with all the needs or the wants that you want. But again, it goes back to, when people allow you to do your job, it's refreshing. It was for me. It was like
Mm-hmm.
95% of the people really wanted to feel like they got one over on me, and it was up to me to make sure that didn't happen. 5% of the people allowed me to do my job, and those were refreshing transactions. It was just refreshing talking to those people, and honestly, they, like I said, they would generally get a better deal than if they tried to work on me a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it's like those ones where you're kind of going back and forth, and they might be, you know whatever the expectation that they have is, from a business standpoint, or from a dealership standpoint, they are they're asking for things that you know might not be able to be achieved, or whatever it is. The other thing that I think about is, because I'll immediately go into like work mode. I'm like ready to go. I'm ready to like have this thing. But then if I pump the brakes for a second and I zoom out and I say, you know what, here's at least on the retail side. On the fleet side, it's a little bit different, but on the retail side, like if I pump the brakes and say, okay, what year is this guy's trade? It's a 2019. Okay. So he has not seen the inside of a dealership for 7 years. He does not, somewhere along the line, he or she learned that this was the way to do it. And that behavior worked at one point. Otherwise they wouldn't do it this way. Um, and so, like, having compassion for somebody, like, that would be like, you know, comparing, you know, like a small youth hockey player to an NHL player. You know what I mean? Like, um, we are in the industry all the time. Like, we know the trends, we know rebates, we know incentive structures, we know, basic margins and basic things like that. But these guys that, they buy a vehicle once every 7 years, once every 5 years, and every time they come in, it's a battle. It's like, okay, I can either battle with this guy, or I can have compassion for him and say, like, he might not know what he just doesn't know, and that's okay. And like, he can do what he's gonna do, and I'm just gonna take care of him anyway, you know. I'm gonna, there's really no difference in treatment, to a particular degree. Um, but yeah, no, I understand what you're saying as far as, being able to, like, kind of show me what you got, right? Like, you said, okay, Brian, you said you wanted to take care of me. What is all that? What are these 40,000 emails for? And then they give me a shot and they're like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Y-
actually does kind of make my life a little bit easier. And then
Yes.
that doesn't happen all the time though. Some guys are like, oh, well, it's still too high, or that's still XYZ or whatever. You can't close every single one. Um, but you just make an effort today, you know,
Yeah.
make an
Yeah.
effort today.
Just
That's
building
great.
relationships is all you're
Sure.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Sure,
it.
man.
Yeah.
So you and I have known each other for a while,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
we had connected on LinkedIn and kind of built a relationship there, and then we shared contact information.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I know you're in New England, and when you
Yeah.
sent me your phone number, I was like, he's got a Dallas phone number. How is that? How is that possible, man? I want to know, how do you have a Dallas phone number? I mean, because it doesn't
Yeah.
sound like you're from here or that you ever lived here. It sounds like you've been a
Yeah.
New England guy your whole life. So,
Yeah.
what's up with
Yeah.
the Dallas phone number?
Yeah, yeah. So like I said, I grew up in Stoneham. I'm like, whatever, 20 minutes outside of Boston, 25 minutes north of Boston.
Yeah, you can't
Um,
hear it at all. By the way, you
yeah,
can't.
no, no. I mean, if I throw in an occasional y'all or something, maybe
Yeah,
I would be a little bit more
it,
covert.
yeah, it
But
doesn't
now,
work for you. But anyway,
yeah, right, right. No, it doesn't sound right at all. Um, but so I was, you know, and I suppose it's still happening. Big time, but I mean, shoot, there was a window of time, um, in like the late 2010s, you know, mid 20 teens, where there was just a rampant, um, opioid crisis in America, and I was a part of it. I struggled with an opiate addiction. I struggled with addiction, on and off for quite some time, um, I had multiple opportunities to get well up here, and to get sober up here, and I would, put a couple months together and I would fall off, and I'd put it a couple months together and I'd fall off. So I've been to treatment probably 6 or 7 times, and then I left this one treatment center, and I really connected with this counselor over there, and I called him from another spot, and I said, hey, I really jived with what you guys, like, the messages of what you guys did, like, where can I go? Like, I want to get this thing. And he said, I don't I don't know of anywhere that you could go except for this one place in Texas. And that phone call was on a Saturday, and I was on a plane on Monday. And so I was in treatment in Texas, and that's how I got the Texas phone number. So I was in treatment, um, for Texas, in Texas, for, the program that I was in was longer. It was about a 2 year long program. I left that program on my own accord after about 4 months or so, and and they had particular procedures where if a client leaves, they can't necessarily assist them in leaving because they don't want to really enable them. They don't want to. I totally understand their premise of it, but really it was at that point, like, I'm standing at the end of the driveway of this facility, and it's like, it's all you at that point. Like, it was me. It was two suitcases. I had a guitar on my back and a backpack on my belly, like, I had, because I packed from Boston, and I was out in, Kaufman, and I was homeless. Um, I hitchhiked from Kaufman to Dallas, and then, that evening slept in the Greyhound station in, kind of like South Dallas area, like right before you get to South Dallas. And then the following morning, before the sun came up, I was at a homeless shelter in, um, East Dallas. Um, and they, and it, man, it was August. It was August in Texas. So I had all this, I had all, and this isn't me like playing the violin. It's just like context, right? Because, and, so I got into this homeless shelter, and, like, um, sleeping on the floor, and doing all that stuff. But again, like a little bit like not quite salesy stuff, but relationship stuff. Like, yeah, I met people that were, you know, the absolute salt of the earth. That they were just, they were going through it. They couldn't, they were like me. They couldn't put time together, and they sought out this one spot because they gave them assignments. You clean up the cigarette butts, you clean up the bathrooms, you do whatever. They gave them like little jobs, and it gave them purpose, and it gave them a drive. And so I stayed there for, I think it was like 2 weeks or so. And then I was, then I went to a sober living with other guys. And I eventually, fast forward, you know, um, I got a shot to bring some other guys through the work, and I got to manage that house at a certain point. And I met my wife down there. She's from California, and she had her own story, but she went to treatment in Texas. I'm from Boston, went to treatment in Texas. We met there. Um, and like I would have never, you know what I mean? Like the evolution of, like, I could have never guessed that on my best day, of like kind of how that was going to pan out. And so, like, that it trickles into, like, all that stuff really trickles into my role now, because like there have been instances where other sales consultants or other people might come to me, like with suggestion, hey, I have to break this bad news to this customer, or like there's this customer that is like pretty involved, maybe type A, wants to know absolutely every single spec, and like everything has to be perfect or whatever. People don't, not everybody wants to, it, not like I don't express that I really have a choice, but sometimes if people can dodge those people, they will, and they usually wind up with me. And because I was, you know, in a past life, making phone calls to moms and dads of their, as their case manager, like, follow-up calls directly after they've been admitted to the ER because they just overdosed, calling a customer and saying, hey, the vehicle that you just purchased actually now has a recall, and it's going to be probably another week or two before you can take delivery of it. That doesn't, there is inconvenience in that call. There is, um, you know, there's inconvenience in that call, but it doesn't, like, it doesn't necessarily do the same thing for me that it might do for somebody that's newer, or has fear about that type of stuff, because I've I just think about those calls, and I think about those discussions that I've had to have with families and with clients, um, just kind of talking them through, yeah, like I said, like homelessness, or I mean, we've lost a lot of people, we've lost a lot of friends, um, um, you know, through the process, and some guys who didn't make it, some girls that didn't make it, and it's a huge drag, and that's like the understatement of the century. Um, but all of that, you asked about why I have a Dallas phone number, is because I got sober down there, and like my heart, Texas is like my second home, man. Like I have a lot of like people that I, you know, if I was in a pinch, like I'd let them watch my kids. You know what I mean? Like I would leave my kids with these people, and like because they just get it. They just get it. They've turned it around, and they know how to do it. And again, like a big part of, remaining kind of level-headed and remaining, on the right path is getting out of me and being of service to people. And so what better what better spot, like professionally, um, to be able to do that than a spot like this. And yeah, I mean, it was April 18th of 2015 was, yeah, that was when I went down to Texas. So yeah, yeah.
So after 4 months of being at this rehab center on a 2-year program,
Hmm.
what made you just get up and, because you had nothing. You said you were
Yeah,
homeless. You had
yeah.
everything, literally, you had everything in your two hands and on your back.
Hmm. Yep.
What made
Yes.
you get up and say, you know what, after 4 months, I'm out of here? What? I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it
Yeah,
because when
yeah,
I asked you about your Dallas phone number, this is not where I thought we were going to go.
yeah.
But I mean, what possesses
Surprise.
somebody? Yeah, because my thought is you've got some sort of protection there. You've got shelter. You've
Hmm.
got some sort of consistent meals.
Hmm.
Um, my guess is you probably didn't have a
Hmm.
whole lot of money, if any.
No,
When
no.
okay, at four
Yeah.
months, what essentially I kind of envision the movie Castaway with Tom
Hmm.
Hanks. He
Sure.
gets tired of it after a while and says,
Hmm.
okay, well, the only way to get out of here, I have to get off the island. But he had created safety on the island. He
Yeah.
had figured out how to catch food, he had built shelter, but he hadn't seen a single soul in 3 years.
Yep.
So at some
Yep.
point, he devised a plan to be able to get off the island. And he felt like, at least in the movie portrayal, that he would rather die trying to get off the island than to stay on the island and die. And
Hmm.
I
Yep.
can only guess that maybe some of that played. I don't want to speak for you. Tell me, what was your thought at month 4 when you said, I'm out?
Yeah. So like there's a few, different facilities, different I suppose techniques or messages or methods to cultivate long-term sobriety. And I would say sometimes certain facilities and the way that they execute and the way that they communicate and the way that it jives with certain people and it doesn't jive with other people. And I think that there was like this inflection point where I just I couldn't buy into, like, I had sat in groups every day for those 4 months and I was consuming the material that they were teaching. Um and and I just couldn't, um I could get behind the material they were teaching. I couldn't necessarily get behind the way they were teaching it, if that makes sense. Um because I've seen people that are like, yeah, I got a little bit of a drinking problem. Maybe I shake on Mondays, and then they make a firm, in the book they make a firm resolve, and they never go back. Um, you know, or I've also seen people that, like, yeah, you know what, I have a drinking problem or I have a drug problem, and I go to church, and now I go to church, and I don't drink anymore. And there's other people that, go to, psychiatric facilities, or there's people that go to, detoxes and they get clean and they come out, I don't have a problem. I don't have an issue. And then there's guys that go to like wilderness camps and like really heavy, heavy, maybe they do trauma work and like it's proper work. And it's, um, some of those, not all the facilities are created equally, and I'm also not saying that the place that I went to was bad in any way. I just don't think at that point in time, at that season of my life, it just didn't really jive with me. Looking back on it now, I mean, hindsight is 2020. Looking back on it now, I can see what they were trying to do. Do I jive with it now? Probably not. Still, um, but I'm grateful for the foundation that they exposed me to, and I'm grateful for, effectively like the square root of what they were making efforts to teach. Um, because that really kind of catalyzed me into saying, okay, if I leave, I don't think about drinking. I don't think about that stuff anymore. So I think that part is taken care of. So then at that point, it became like logistics. Like, where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to? And so that's, yeah, I just, it was just one of those things you just figure it out. You just make efforts to figure it out. And, we were talking about like different seasons of life. And like right now with the two kids and the one on the way and stuff, my wife and I talk about this all the time, where it's like, you go through these seasons of life where you put your head down, you grind, 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 you pick your head up, and 6 months later, maybe there's an upward trend. And then you take a breath and you go back down and you grind, grind, grind 6 months later, and you pick your head up and there's another upward trend. And we're just in the season of our life right now where it's grind, grind, grind. And because we have little kids and we love it, we're exhausted at the end of the day. Nothing makes me happier than, I was telling you, like a brain melt television and ice cream. At the end of the day, we put the kids to bed and it's great, and we read them books, but then it's very simple expectations. But yeah. So I mean, that's it. That's it. It's helped me appreciate very small wins. It's helped me stay in the present moment and understand really what's important. It's allowed me to be grateful and express gratitude um, to friends and family that stuck around with me throughout that season of my life, and I'm grateful for the ability to do that. I'm so happy that I get to show up for my customers the way that I do.
Yeah.
Because if everything was fair, I wouldn't be able to. I'm grateful that things aren't fair. Um, because if everything was fair, I probably wouldn't necessarily be here. Um, yeah, yeah.
Well, good for you, man.
Thanks, man.
I'm happy you're on this side of it and you're still with us, because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
every addiction's real. I don't want to downplay any addiction, but
No, for
that
sure.
that addiction's real, man. And you're right. We lose a lot of people unnecessarily,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really sad, and that saddens me that this life has to be that way. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I think a lot of people just grow callous, or callous is probably too strong of a word. They just grow an ability to kind of put that behind them, like they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to see it,
Mm-hmm.
and until they experience it firsthand. Because my only guess is when you were fighting through that, and then you moved to Texas, that you found out really quickly that there was not a lot of people that cared about you, that you thought cared about you. They didn't call, they didn't talk, and you're like, wow,
Right.
you
Right, but
know,
also right, and at that might eat your lunch for a minute, but then when I really look deeper into it, it was all through my own doing. Do you know what I
right,
mean? And
self-inflicted.
so yeah, 100%. And so at a certain point, it's like I can think about this and be regretful or feel shame about it or feel guilt about it until I'm blue in the face, but that's not actually going to change that's not going to change the quality of my relationships. Um, you know, uh, that's not gonna necessarily change the way that people view me. And yeah, sure, maybe my circle is really small right now. Like I've made, like speaking back to when I was, first starting to get sober, my circle is really small right now. There's not a ton of people in my corner, but at what point do I just say, you know what, behavior has to change in order to take a um, step towards kind of just doing the next right thing. That's really all that has to happen, is like within the next 30 seconds, how can I show up with integrity? And if that's too long, within the next 10 seconds, what can I do to effectively rewrite the character that I have presented to the world for the last, 5, 6 years? And the process, yeah, sure, it stinks, but that doesn't, it's of my own doing. Do you know what I mean? And I have to be able to, I have to take responsibility for that. And that's like going through the process of making amends and stuff like that. Like that was super powerful, um, and it's meaningful. But this is also not to say that, um, like, oh, now, all of a sudden, I now I don't do drugs anymore, but so therefore my life is amazing. Like that's, and every moment is perfect. No, no, that's not the case. I mean, we've had some really, strong challenges since then. Um, my wife's mother passed away, and I mean, more like it- um, day to day. I mean, our son, lives with non-speaking autism and epilepsy. Um,
Wow.
and so like what used to be a solution, right? Like drinking, going to drugs, that to like, you know, in a very distorted thinking process, what used to be the solution of like, oh, I feel uncomfortable or life is getting overwhelming, I should just drink or take a drug or whatever. Now it's that has been removed, right? So, last year there was an instance where we got a call from the school. He's never had any seizure activity ever. We got a call from the school, and he had a seizure. And so we scrambled, we ran to the emergency room and got there, and they're effectively like, hey, when it comes to seizures, everybody gets one, because you could have a fever and have a seizure. You could have XYZ and a seizure could be caused. If you have one, it's concerning, but it's not that big of a deal. And so we went home, and the following day he had five. And so it changed, you know, what we, and again, with expectations or serving people or advocating or whatever, that like my son has really taught me how to, um, because obviously he can't necessarily advocate for his own needs. And so I have to, like, when it comes to education, when it comes to services, when it comes to medication or things that he may need, that I know that he needs, and that my wife knows that he needs, but the providers might not know, or the insurance companies definitely do not know. Um, it's given me an opportunity to like tenaciously um, advocate for him. And so, and again, much like calling those families that have been damaged by the addiction, getting a provider on the phone, or tracking down who I can talk to in order to get my son this service, or in order to get my son this safety bed, or in order to get my, just basic things that allow him to, you know, um, live life with the opportunity to have some sameness with, neurotypical peers, and the fact that he can't communicate himself, that tenacity and that advocacy and that, follow up and stuff, that has directly related to my role as well. Because like if a customer is looking for one particular thing and it's really specific, and they've been given the runaround at a couple of different spots, and they know it's really specific, they know it's really hard to get, and they're totally understanding of that. They just need somebody to partner with to make efforts to find that for them. I have no problem doing that. That's I like I've had years of having opportunities to do that, whether it be with our own like family stuff, or whether it be for other clients in sobriety and stuff. But it's not, it's just service.
Yeah.
It's just service, and
Wow.
it's not rocket science. It's not hard. It's just making efforts to get it done for somebody else.
I got to tell you, brother, at a young 33 years old, you have lived a lifetime, my friend. My God.
Man, every time my wife cuts my hair, a little bit more white shows up. Of I
Yeah.
had yeah, I lived hard for a little while, and I'm kind of happy that I kind of pseudo got it out of the way, so to speak.
Yeah.
If that's like a twisted way of saying it, but um, I'm just man, I'm just happy to have a shot to do this work, and
Yeah.
to work with these businesses, and to provide them with their vehicles and answer their questions and learn from them. and just watch like industry trends and supply chain stuff, and like it's fascinating to me, and I get to be of service to these people, and
Yeah.
I get to help them, I get to support them through that process, and I just love it. I dig it a lot.
I was going to say, there's not an objection that a customer could throw at you that could be any worse, in my opinion, than living at the Greyhound bus station
Hmm.
after, right? I mean, what could they possibly say or do? It's like I've,
Yeah, it's I mean,
not to brag on that, but really it gives you a different perspective than what I have, or what I would think a lot of
sure.
people have. Yeah.
Sure. And I can know that, like, obviously if I'm getting an objection that way through my lens, right? Through my lens might not be that big of a deal. But I also have to, if I'm making efforts to be good at what I do, I have to see how worked up they're getting and understand how important it is to them. Like, it's a flat tire. No, it's not. No, at the end of the day, sure, if you want to be existential about it and say that it's a flat tire, it's not that big of a deal. But this is a business owner.
Yeah.
His entire livelihood
Yeah.
is predicated on his vehicles being up and running and the tires being in good shape, and is and minimizing downtime and all that stuff. So as much as I may, you know, like I guess have the capability to be reflective on the importance or lack thereof of those issues. Um, it's really more about allowing the customer to know that if they believe this is important, if they believe that this it needs attention, that I'm shoulder to shoulder with them. I believe it's important too. And and it might sound mundane to most people, but I will advocate. I have no problem doing that. I have no problem advocating or making every effort to be supportive to them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Years ago, we all have to deliver bad news. Everybody that walks the
yeah,
face of this earth, we have to deliver
yeah,
bad news at some point.
yeah, sure.
And to the point, I will admit, I'm not at all happy or proud to admit this, but human nature kicks in. And when you don't want to deliver bad news, you tend to want to walk away.
Hmm.
And
Sure.
it doesn't do anybody any good if you have something altering that disputes what your promise was. So
Hmm.
I kind of coined this. I, I had to figure out, like most people, how to adapt. And the way I adapt was, if I knew I had bad news, or I felt like it was bad news,
Hmm.
I would call a customer, and instead of saying, Brian, I have bad news,
Hmm.
immediately when I say that, your defense wall goes up
Bingo.
because it's bad news. But if I call and say, Brian, I have news, you get to tell me if it's good or bad.
Hmm.
Immediately, you're kind of in that mode of, okay, I don't really know what you're going to say, but go ahead,
Inquisitive. Right.
right? And I say, hey, that truck we were going to try to deliver to you today? Yeah. This morning when I got to the office, Ford sent out a group of recalls. Looks like it's probably going to be at least a week before I can get it to you. Now, to me, that's bad news because we agreed that you were going to take delivery of this truck today. When I deliver the news, knowing your background now, you would
Hmm.
probably say, oh, I thought you had bad news. Dude, that's a week? Okay. No big deal.
Right.
But you let me off the hook.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what I figured out was, well, just because it's bad news to me doesn't mean it's going to be bad news to you.
Right.
And that's when I flip that to say, hey, I've got news. You get to tell me if it's good or bad.
Hmm.
You'd be amazed how many people would fire back and say, okay, that's a little disturbing, or, let me work around that, but it's not that bad. Don't worry about it. They'd let me off the hook, and then I've used that all the time, and
Hmm.
it works. It does. It's
Yep.
that psychology of, hey, but transversely, I could say the same thing, but if I worded it as I've got bad news and I tell you that it's going to be another week before you get your truck, immediately it's bad news. Oh my God, dude, why didn't you tell me? It's like, I just, you were the first phone call when I found out. And then it becomes, you've now laid the groundwork for you and your customer to have this stretch of time where it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And why? When you can word it just a little differently, and maybe in perspective, it wasn't that big of a deal. Maybe it is. Maybe it still is a big deal. But oftentimes, presented the right way, it's not that big of a deal. And, for someone like you that has seen a big deal, most everything that you encounter in life isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes I slip into sometimes I can almost be like almost too objective, where it might legitimately be. I mean, like I had a situation last summer. I built a truck. Customer had come back to me, a couple of years in a row, but he wanted to switch up his spec a little bit. He wanted these different toolboxes underneath his dump body, and he wanted a stainless steel dump body. He wanted a particular manufacturer for these boxes. I couldn't find them anywhere. Found one distributor in New Hampshire, got the distributor, ordered them from Tennessee, shipped to New Hampshire. Then we installed them, whatever. So, but they're custom stainless steel mirror finish toolboxes, like beautiful toolboxes. And we wait like 6 to 8 weeks for them to get in. They finally land. They come in on the pallet. And the guy who installs them calls me and he goes, "Hey, not gonna work." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "If we put these on, if he runs over a ladybug, he's gonna bottom out. They're too tall." And I was like, okay. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, is there something? What did I do? What happened? And when me and him were specking out the truck, because he was going over, he was effectively making it in his head and gave me the dimensions based on that. And so I ordered those dimensions. And so I called him and I said, "Hey, here's some information for you. The boxes that we ordered, point blank, just not the right dimensions. And I want to call the distributor and see if we can get a return on those and try to narrow in these dimensions with you so this does not happen again." Because now he has a template of what his next truck can look like and what his next truck can look like, because we went through this process of, like, what some people might call a headache, where it's like, okay, I had to make a call. I had to break some bad news. And luckily he was super understanding, and he's like, "You know what, man, like we just measured it the wrong way, and I appreciate you calling me and letting me know, and let's get another order of the right dimensions, straight away as fast as we can." And that's exactly what we did. And then we put the right boxes on, and the thing looked like $1,000,000, like chrome bumpers, like mirror finish toolbox, mirror finish pack. Like it looked like it fell from the sky. And he was psyched. So it was like, there's this little blip it held up his delivery for weeks. But once we corrected it, we had the information. It was tough information to swallow. We didn't get hung up on the fact that it was tough, good, bad, right, or wrong. We executed a solution. We delivered it. And now the memory from that interaction is not, we ordered the wrong boxes. The memory is, when this thing is put together and all the dimensions are right, it looks like $1,000,000.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and you can even take that one step further of, um, you helped him build the right truck. Let's extrapolate the truck itself, but the fact that you stood there, like you just said 5 minutes ago, shoulder to shoulder, like, yep,
Mm-hmm.
we have a problem, but I'm not going to leave you. Let's figure this problem out together. You came up with a solution. Um, it was rare that your customer was understanding, because even
Mm-hmm.
if the customer, let's be
Yep.
honest, even if they make a mistake, it's still, why didn't you catch my mistake?
Yep.
And to a
Yep.
certain degree, customers do have cause in saying that.
Hmm.
I've
Yep.
made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. And sometimes you're like, yeah, I should have caught that, man. I'm sorry. I missed it, but I was really entrenched into making sure you got exactly what you were looking for. And I didn't look beyond that to say, hey, let's think about this. This isn't going to
Hmm.
work. But
Hmm.
moving forward, now that customer does know that in the event that they bring something to the table, now your first thought is rather than securing what it is he's looking for, let's make sure it's going to work first.
Well, it's verification
Yeah,
is what
absolutely.
it
Yeah.
is, and it's
Yeah.
never like that. And like, he's a great kid. I love working with him. I love helping out his small business. They're landscapers on the South Shore, and I'm so grateful that he, Pseudo gave me a pass on that one, but it will, end of story, will never happen again.
That part. Yes.
It is there. There's people that learn a little bit every day over a course of a long period of time, and then there's situations where you learn a lot really quick, and that was one of those. I learned a lot really quick, and so verification, double checking, making sure that dimensions work, making sure that engine spec, wheelbase, stuff like that is all within line, and taking an extra 10 minutes to verify is not gonna change anybody's world. So yeah, take the extra time to
It's
verify.
called wisdom, is what that's
Yeah,
called.
yeah, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah. And
yeah.
wisdom generally comes through bad experiences.
Oh
Let's be
yeah,
honest. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We don't learn from good stuff. We learn from the bad stuff. It's like,
Hmm.
won't do that
Hmm.
again because it
Yeah,
happens. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. Well, dude, I have thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
yeah.
Uh,
Same here, man. Thank you
it,
so much for giving me a shot to get on here. And I mean, shoot, like we connected, and we talked on the phone for a little while, and I was not expecting an invitation to come on here, and I just really appreciate the opportunity to
yeah,
pop on here with you. Yeah.
yeah. Well, dude, look, I say it all the time. Together, we're making our industry stronger, and
Hmm.
having communications and allowing you to tell a story that I got to be honest with you, man. I did not see that story going where it went. Um, but I want to say that thank you for sharing that. I, I cannot sympathize. I can empathize with you, but I cannot sympathize with what you're going through, what you've been through, um, the, the things that you've seen at an early age in life. I just I can't sympathize with that. But um, thank you for sharing that, dude. That was an amazing story. I'm so happy for you. Whatever brought us together uh, through LinkedIn, um, I just, I'm cheering for you. I want you to succeed. I want you to get everything in life. You've got a new baby that's coming in a couple of months. I think that's freaking awesome,
Like,
dude.
yeah,
Right? You should
yeah.
be absolutely. Um, but yeah, thank you for your time, man. And like I said, sharing your story and allowing others to hear it and um, I just feel like there's someone listening, someone watching that may be going through a rough patch.
Hmm.
Maybe worse than you, maybe not as bad, but just know that you're proof that you can get through it. Just hang in there. Just one more day. And if one day is too much, a half a day. And if a
Hmm.
half a day is too much, just the next hour. And if that's too much, keep drilling it down. Get through the next minute. Get through the next 10 minutes. Just keep putting one foot ahead of the other. There's people out there like you that are proof that um, that you can get through it. And I'm happy for you, man. So if you've got a customer out there that's listening, I know there's decision makers out there. What's the best way to get in touch with you? Let's give you some flowers and give you an opportunity to maybe get some business out of this.
For sure, for sure. You can use that trusty Dallas area code. 31 is my personal cell phone number. My wife calls me on that number. And call me, text me. All my contact info is listed on LinkedIn. It's probably why I get so many spam calls. But it's just an opportunity to connect, whether it be even just to have a discussion about, just being human, what truck sales or not, life, kids, whatever it is. I'm just happy to learn from other people, or to get a shot to learn myself.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, call, text, email. Happy to you know chat it up with anybody, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, man. Well, let's stay connected. I don't want this to be something that ends our our relationship. A lot of people feel like once we're kind of done with the podcast, that's the end of it. I don't want it to be the end of it. I want
Yeah,
you're in my circle, and I want you to
yeah,
continue to stay there. And yeah, let's continue to work together, help each other. If there's anything I can ever do for you, obviously I'm here, and I'd like to feel that it's reciprocal. So
without a doubt.
yeah,
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 yeah, without a doubt. Symbiosis. Happy to um, you know, if you got any people that need some help up here, happy
yeah,
to do it. I'm
yeah,
sure that there might be some people down there that might reach out to me, that might need some, passenger vans or stuff like that for any particular
yeah,
facilities or rehabs. Happy to send them your way. Happy to, because you're just one of the guys that get, and you just get it. You
yeah,
just get it.
yeah,
So I appreciate you. Thanks a million for your time.
yeah, man. I appreciate you, brother.